Hi guys, I'm certainly not the best at theorizing or putting clues together, so to speak. So more than likely, all of the things I say in this video will turn out to be very false and meaningless by Volume 4. This video will contain a lot of spoilers! If you're not completely caught up with RWBY at this point, do not watch this video. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now I'm going to finally talk about Cinder and kind of the Grimm Dragon at the same time. I do not believe Cinder is dead. There seems to be ample evidence for it, being that RWBY froze a gigantic Grimm Dragon and Cinder was a small, in comparison, just a small little person. But she is the Fall Maiden, so I believe she would have extra power to protect herself from RWBY's attack. She could also be frozen, but I'm really not sure about that. But if she died when RWBY attacked, then RWBY would most likely be the one in Cinder's final thoughts, right? Because that's what Ozpin and his group talked about to Pyrrha. If Cinder had died on the tower and RWBY was in her final thoughts because RWBY was attacking her, then RWBY would have gotten the Fall Maiden's power, right? But it's pretty obvious that RWBY didn't get the power. I saw a theory on a comment on one of my videos. They talked about how Blake's book from Volume 1, the one about the man with the two souls, will become relevant regarding Cinder and Amber's soul. I kind of doubt this theory for the following reasons. Cinder inherited Amber's power naturally because Amber died. There's been no evidence of a conflict between a new maiden and the previous maiden's souls. Additionally, the maiden power is not the manifestation of the soul, aura is. And Ozpin and his group were worried about Pyrrha changing who she was, because if she received Amber's aura, which is what they were transferring, not the maiden power, then their souls would have been intertwined. If Cinder had received Amber's aura, then this theory would be more likely. Now, the strange circumstances and interruption of the aura transfer could have allowed some of Amber's aura to transfer into Cinder, but with a lack of evidence, I doubt it at this point. So next, everyone knows that the dragon is still on top of the beacon tower, but nobody has even mentioned Cinder or even a person being up there. There's a slight chance that nobody's actually been to the top of the tower yet. We don't know because after the whole thing happened, we just went to Patch and RWBY's house. So there is a slight chance that nobody has been to the top of the tower to see if Cinder is up there or what's going on with the dragon, but I kind of doubt this. Instead, I believe that Cinder is surprised at RWBY's appearance during Pyrrha's death. Like, despite her surprise, Cinder avoided harm in some way. Cinder's fate will likely remain uncertain for a while, unless it was supposed to be obvious that RWBY's eyes completely disintegrated her, as they appeared to. I feel as if Cinder is either frozen or has escaped. I seriously doubt that this is the end of her, and personally I'd like to see John kill her in the future. Jean, sorry. If the dragon is frozen, couldn't they get some huntsmen up there to go kill it? That's my main question here. Or is there some other factor or force preventing this that they didn't mention? I think it shouldn't be that difficult to go up there and kill the dragon at some point, unless the problem is getting there in the first place, because Beacon is surrounded by other Grimm. But even with the surrounding of Grimm throughout Vale and Beacon, couldn't they send a ship up there with a couple huntsmen in there to kill the Grimm Dragon? So now only a couple of topics left. I think we're moving on to what I believe is kind of the biggest mystery that originated from the Volume 3 finale. That's obviously Salem and Ozpin's condition. So based on what we know and how they spoke kind of to each other during Salem's speech from the Volume 3 finale and the very first episode ever, the Wizard of Oz references, etc., I assume Salem and Ozpin to be very old enemies. Old as in they've been enemies for a very long time. This would lend both of their ages to additionally be very, very old. And Ozpin's age has always been a mystery, starting way back with him stating he's made more mistakes than every man, woman, and child. With the telling of the story of the seasons, many have hypothesized that he is the wizard who granted the maidens their powers. Additionally, Monty stated that Ozpin does not follow the color naming rule, quote, for reasons, unquote. In the episode Field Trip in Volume 2, Ozpin states that after the war, the color naming idea was introduced. This war ended about 80 years ago from the start of the series, meaning that Ozpin is at least over 80 years old. Because of Ozpin's old age, I expect Salem to be at least that age. Both are probably much, much older than 80 years old, but we don't really know right now. They've been enemies for a seemingly long time. Is Ozpin with Salem at this point? I say yes. The dialogue between them from the very first episode, Ozpin responds to Salem saying, perhaps victories in the smaller things you've long forgotten, smaller, more simple soul, things like that. This tells me Ozpin is being kept by Salem, wherever Salem is. How did he get there? Something about his fight with Cinder must have transported him there, because he's not dead and he was just reported missing. But his weapon was still there, which, remember, Crow had in the after credits scene. So where is Salem? This is probably one of the biggest questions. In the short bit of her that we have seen, we know that wherever she is, the moon is there as well. She can see the moon, it was in the background. Either she's somewhere on Remnant, or on another planet that is close to Remnant's moon. From the World of Remnant episode on Dust, I believe it is, we see that dust does not work outside of Remnant's atmosphere. So nobody could get to another planet using traditional, like, rocket-type technology that utilized dust. Then Salem's power has to be so great that she can link multiple planets together for if she had to get Ozpin over to where she is. Remember, this is regarding if and only if she is on a completely different planet in Remnant's solar system. If she is not on a different planet, where could she be on Remnant? Now, I looked at a terrain map of Remnant, and I believe that the southeastern regions of the same continent that Mistral is on, so that's the easternmost continent, there are areas that look like she could be hiding there. There are two main spots on the map that look to be volcanic and very mountainous in nature. There's a lot of red and orangey color there. And that's kind of similar to what we saw from the bit about Salem in the Volume 3 finale. If Salem is on Remnant, she's not in some underground realm because she can see the moon. I bet she is there. So, speaking of the moon, after the appearance of the Grimm Dragon, many people began wondering, what happened to the shattered moon? Did the first Grimm come out of it? Is it continuing to shatter, etc.? As of now, the moon has not been focused on at all, and we don't know what's really happening with it. I'm speaking about the moon because even though we don't know anything about it, we can use various songs and the soundtracks to make inferences about what's happening. Before I get into that, I will preface this by saying that I believe the songs that are put in the soundtracks for the RWBY volumes are giving relevant information due to how they have in the past. Red Like Roses Parts 1 and 2 told us about Ruby and Summer's relationship and how Summer disappeared and left Ruby alone. The song Boop tells us about Ren and Nora's relationship and how she doesn't know how to convey her feelings to Ren. While the songs Shine and Dream Come True give us some of Pyrrha's feelings about Jean. Mirror Mirror told us a story of Weiss's loneliness and isolation, and From Shadows basically told us that Blake was a Faunus, etc. Anyway, the moon is mentioned several times in RWBY songs. The two I will focus on is I May Fall and Die. In I May Fall, the lyric says, "When the moon is gone." This tells me that after the first time the moon was shattered, it is continuing to shatter or fall apart. Probably slowly, but it is continuing to do so. Most likely the moon is unstable and gravity is pulling pieces away. What caused the moon to shatter in the first place? In the song Die, it says, "Enemies arise and the hate is flowing, shattering the moon and bloodying the sky." Because of these lyrics, I believe that the same emotions that bring the Grimm are what is causing or what caused the moon to shatter in the first place. Similar to how the dragon was able to break out of the mountain, perhaps a Grimm also broke out of the moon with the help of an extreme amount of negativity, sadness, etc. emotions on Remnant. Because we have now seen Salem, and she has an appearance similar to the Grimm, I believe that the moon is also definitely associated with Salem in some way. Her power came from the moon, she came from the moon, or something similar. There's not enough evidence to make a clear decision. So now I'm just gonna quickly wrap up some of my previous points and talk about some general ideas for Volume 4. So what does Volume 4 bring? With the grouping of Ruby, Jean, Ren, and Nora, it is easy to assume that the main arc of this volume will focus on them and their journey to Haven. I'm also expecting some major character development for certain important characters, especially Ren and Nora. I think the past regarding RWBY and Yang's family will also get more explanation. Did Summer's disappearance have something to do with Salem? My guess is yes. Why did Raven leave Yang and Taiyang? Questions like these that currently lack answers will at least be somewhat explained in this volume. There are most likely many secrets that will remain secrets until much further down the line, several years from now. What about the villains? Certainly we will find out more about Salem and her affiliates. Rooster Teeth would not introduce the main villain of the show at the end of a season finale for barely even a minute, then not show her at all for the entire next volume. I just don't think that's how it will play out. Regarding Cinder, M, Merc, and Neo, I assume that we will know where they are and what they've been doing by the end of the volume. What about the rest of Team RWBY? While I do not think that the show will focus on one of them more than Ruby, Jean, Nora, and Ren, we will surely see some of each character, whether it be an insight into Weiss's family or how Yang gets through her depression. These vital characters will not be ignored. It is only a question between the balance of following the main character with several supporting ones or following several other main characters. So, this concludes my thoughts, predictions, and theories for RWBY Volume 4, and some things about RWBY Volume 3. If it seems I did not go into enough detail or I was vague on a certain part, you can ask me questions or even just comment on the ideas I presented in this video in the comments below or on my Twitter, which is on a link in the description. Remember, these are just ideas from my own head, and admittedly, I'm not the best at theorizing. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I can't wait to see what Volume 4 will bring, and I can't wait to see how this community develops. See y'all later!